Welcome to the Jennifer Awesome podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Awesome, and I'm so glad that you're here. This podcast is all about meaningful conversations that challenge the way we think, inspire the way we lead, and remind us of the power of human connection. Each episode features educators, leaders, change makers, entrepreneurs, advocates, and everyday people who are making a difference in their communities and creating lasting impact. We'll explore leadership, belonging, education, personal growth, resilience, innovation, and the stories that shape who we become. My hope is that every conversation leaves you with practical ideas, fresh perspectives, and the courage to take your next step towards becoming the person you're called to be. Whether you're leading a classroom, a business, a nonprofit, or simply striving to make a difference in the lives of those around you, you're in the right place. So grab a notebook, take a deep breath, and join us as we learn, grow, and build a world where connection comes before compliance, belonging fuels success, and ordinary people create extraordinary change. Let's dive in. All right, and welcome back to the Jennifer Awesome podcast, where we have real conversations about the experiences that shape us, the adversity that changes us, and the possibility that exists when we decide our story isn't finished yet. Today's guest has a story that is inspiring, courageous, complicated, and incredibly important. Misti Spencer is an author, speaker, coach, advocate, and a survivor whose work explores trauma, healing, identity, resilience, relationships, addiction, belonging, and the long journey of finding your way back to yourself. She also serves on the advisory board for the University of Central Florida Center for the Study of Human Trafficking and Modern Slavery, helping bring survivor-informed perspectives into education prevention, recovery work. So, Misti, welcome to the Jennifer Awesome podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so you have experienced some of the most awful, deepest, darkest things in our world. And to be able to be there and shine as that light for others, I'm incredibly in awe of you and the way that you have persevered through this and being on the other side, sharing it with others. I'm so honored to be able to speak with you today.
Thank you so much. I think it is so much bigger than just my story. Like you said, there's so many survivors whose stories are amplified. They're way beyond the ones that I tell. Mine are a starting point so that we can understand what's happening before we're rescuing, before we're getting to the point that we're survivors.
Absolutely. So, Misti, where are you today? Like, tell us a bit about where you're at today before we dive into how you got here.
Sure. I'm 51, and so I feel like I'm celebrating a different part of my life. I have two children. They're grown-ups and a husband. I've been married married 23 years now. And I worked for decades. I got to this place in my mid 40s, late 40s, where I knew that what I had been through was still going on in the world, everywhere. With my research with the board, it's all over the place. And so where I am today is talking to everyone I can. The notion that the suffering can take over is very real. And I found that when I started serving, that suffering went away. And I dove into working with other marginalized groups and different groups throughout my life. And I did not make it to the human trafficking sector until about 3.5 years ago because of my history. And once I did that, it propelled me forward into this mission. And I avoided it. I really did. I tried not to come into this sector so many times in my life.
Yeah.
And it is very painful to have to keep doing it, but it's still happening. And so my everyday is waking up and seeing, how can I get the message out? It's part of my DNA now. I can't get away from it, and I don't want people to be afraid of what living like a survivor looks like, where we are open about what happened to us, but persevere, find ways to work and be in the community without embarrassment. So that is what I do every day right now. Just role model what this life looks like. I work full time in advocacy. I don't even coach anymore. I'm really just out speaking on big platforms, conventions, and different ways that I can reach a larger audience and see where it takes me now.
And that is beautiful, and for you to be up there sharing your story and working in advocacy, getting that information out there. I'm sure that there's so many people that you have helped them to recognize that, hey, what I've been through, I don't need to feel the shame of it anymore. I can move past that. I can heal it. And thank you so much for being that role model to others out there.
I hope we get there. I meet a lot of survivors in my travels that their message is a little different. I'm not in a position to ever talk about it. I'm not in a position with my familial status or my spouse or my children. Most survivors can't talk out because it has ramifications. It changes your life once you start this path. That's the truth. I
Yeah.
don't I don't want to make it feel like, oh, it's a fame track, that you get to claim this new identity and speak about it and it paves a way. It's the opposite. Most of them won't ever speak out about it because of the stereotypes that come with this. And I knew that when I chose to write a book and release my stories in detail and raw, that, and I basically become unemployable in the normal, natural world because you become known as something. You can't pave both ways sometimes. And that's the hardest part. So if I can take, because I wasn't even at the level so many of our survivors are, where it takes them years. I've talked to some 26 years. They're my age and they've lived their entire adult life in human trafficking, and they are still working a corner job at a CVS or somewhere, trying to have dual lives and find themselves still wrapped up in that world. But it goes beyond that. It's beyond the human trafficking. It's the
Mm-hmm.
child exploitation. That's the root cause of that. It's not that one day a woman wakes up and goes, sex work is for me. Or, I'd really like to take off my clothes and that's how I make money. And that's our perception. Or that somebody's taken and kidnapped and forced into a situation. And although there's elements of that and it surrounds that, it's so much deeper and more complex because it starts from our childhood and our teachings and the fear of talking about sex and sex education with young people,
Mm-hmm.
especially adolescents. And that's the root of my story, is not having the education young and having people around me that avoid those subjects. And then you have predators who know that. They figure that out real quick by the questions they ask and what they ask you to do. And now
Oh,
we
yeah.
have this online element, which burns my soul. It's not that I'm anti online, it's that there's little regulation with children and they're alone a lot. And although we can't prevent all of that, we can certainly have conversations about who they're actually talking to. And then up into the teens and young adults, they're also a target for predators right now.
Oh, absolutely. My one of my daughters, she turned 18 went and got a cell phone, decided she wanted to go live out on the streets. And, she's 18. There wasn't much we could do about it. But from the trauma she went through as a child with her bio mom, we lost track of her for a couple of weeks. And then I got a call from the train station in Seattle. And they're like, hey, your daughter's here. She's trying to get a ticket to go across the state. And it's like, where are you going? Oh, there's some boy. She made it as far as down to the bottom of the state. She didn't make it across the state line. And she's like, Mom, you got to come and get me. So it is out there. It is happening.
It's constant. We were out in LA over the spring, and we were traveling with our daughter. She is a performer, and so we were traveling out on the West Coast. I'll say it now. My daughter was on American Idol. That's part of the other side, by the way.
Mhm.
I didn't say it earlier. What I do now, I support my children. Both of them are successful for what they want to do, and
That's
we
wonderful.
live our lives supporting them and hopefully guiding them. But we went out to LA, and when we were not with her, she was on the American Idol set and all of that. When we weren't with her, I went out underground on the subway, on the buses, did not rent a car for the first week we were there, and just traveled the streets wearing plain clothes, hair up, just like a normal woman or girl, and you throw your sunglasses on. They don't know how old you are from afar, right? And the amount of solicitation that is happening on the streets, not just LA. I made a point to take the buses out to the outskirts of LA, into where Burbank and all of these other spaces around that area. It was incredible, the amount of solicitation that is going on outside, right on the edges of Beverly Hills and the suburbs. And they're in beautiful cars, and they're wearing beautiful clothes. And they have certain ways that they talk to people walking on the streets, and they see how you respond.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the work that I do in the research. Is I'm not part of operations or anything like that. I'm literally just walking around because I'm comfortable in the streets, just walking around observing, watching who's talking to who and what's happening, and reporting back, so that we have our, our hand on the pulse, so to speak, and see what's happening. But that's what's in our every single backyard. It isn't exclusive. It was in Nashville. It's in Florida, we're number 3 or 4 right now. The numbers are teetering. We were 3, then 4. It's incredible, the amount of trafficking that's happening, and that's just what's reported. The adult stuff is not reported. It's so underreported, where they say it's between 10 and 20% is coming from online. We know that's way more, but adults aren't going to report it. What do you say when somebody abuses you in that fashion? What do you say?
No, that is a tough question. And
it's your boyfriend, it's your girlfriend, it's somebody you love, you've been in a relationship with, right? Think of your daughter and making it to that person. And then they get you to take pictures, and then they get you to do a video, and then they threaten to tell your family and everyone else you know, and it starts the process. But good for you for staying close.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I've been sharing that also when my kids were much younger and they played Roblox, I noticed a huge shift in the demeanor of one of our daughters. She became very secluded, really wanted to be on her tablet, and started talking about her friends, and come to find out somebody was grooming her through the Roblox platform. So even though parents aren't aware of it, a lot of these games where you can have that chat option or the voice option, there are people trying to groom your children in your own home, and
it is
aren't aware of it.
Extraordinary. Even beyond the internet, we'll get into the in-home thing, because your neighborhood and everywhere your kid's hanging out is a space. I was abused when I was an adolescent by somebody close to my family, trusted, and nobody knew, and there was no way for me to tell or articulate it because of the relationship that's built in. But beyond that, in today, because that's years ago, that still happens exactly that way today. With the internet, it's not just those video games and the things that we try to protect them from. It's Amazon. Those wish lists that people put public for children to get gifts, people tap into those wish lists. They
Oh,
will private
wow.
message. There's a lot of ways that the signs that people put up saying, my kid's in 10th grade, they just started school. This is their right. This is where they go. People writing, send me money. I just graduated high school at their Instagram handle. All of those things are way predators get to our children. It isn't just the obvious, oh, you were playing video games and that's where the guys pretend they're adult or children and they're really adults.
Yeah.
It's because we are so public now. It wasn't easy to be a public figure 30 years ago when you were 13. Now,
Right.
if you just have a good shtick or whatever your influence is, if you have a good show and you can keep producing that show, you can be influential and in some way make large amounts of money. It's not always about just being poor. Sometimes it's just about attention. And so they will target those children that are very out and boisterous. They girlfriend and boyfriend them and massage them and groom them. And then it becomes the child's fault. And a
Yeah.
lot of times they wait for us to become adults. The grooming starts very young and they wait until you're an adult and they don't get in trouble for it. That's a
And
lot.
I want to ask you really quickly, because if someone in our audience doesn't know what the process of grooming looks like, can I have you just touch on like what is that process?
Absolutely. So if we're talking about somebody that is in their life or close to their family, and when we were training our kids, I say it like this: it can be your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother, your uncle, your aunt, grandmother, grandfather, your neighbor, your friend's dad, your church, your not church, your underground. It is not exclusive to any one person or kind of person. It has to do with the child and the risk that they are, their vulnerabilities. If they need money, if they don't have clothes, if they don't have food, but beyond that, attention, loneliness, abandonment, parentification, all of those things are the risk factors that our vulnerabilities, predators look at and can dive into. Once they find what that vulnerability is, they work on it and massage it a little bit. I saw your parents, they got on you about that. Man, that must have been tough. They yelled at you when you're out on the ball field. I didn't like when my dad did that either, right? They find ways that you communicate back and they play down their age. They can be close to your age as well. I was 11 years old and I was raped by a 17-year-old. I had no idea what was happening. I didn't understand sex. I saw it. I'd been exposed to pornography from 5, 6 years old, but I didn't understand it as being a sexual act of what this person was doing until much later. It's that significant. They look for somebody that isn't aware of what is happening. That's part of that vulnerability too. I was diagnosed with autism later in life, but I believe that's part of that factor, a kid that has some naivete. And that comes with no sex education. Doesn't have to do with neurodiversity, right? So when they are grooming a child, when you become an adult, all of those things stay with you, the way somebody grooms you. So I want it to be relative to even being groomed as an adult. It
Mm-hmm.
starts young,
Mm-hmm.
somewhere in their life. And then they find ways to make you complicit, whether it's by lying, by getting caught doing something you shouldn't, by getting you to do something you otherwise wouldn't do. When I was an adult, alcohol and drugs were a big part of my life. I'm a recovering alcoholic. And that is part of how they make you compliant and also complicit and get you to lie. And once they have blackmail, pictures, videos, a lie, a way into your life, they can pull and tug on that tether, and it pulls you back in. Plus the love, man, the love bombing that comes with the initial grooming. You're the most beautiful they've ever seen. You're the smartest. The clothes you wear are the clothes they would wear, right? They start mirroring and bringing themselves into your world. But as soon as you get comfortable, they yank it out from under you. That's the narcissist part. I don't like to label all of it as narcissism, but it's where that person goes into their own survival mode. They're going to lose their victim, or they're going to lose this person. And so they lay in with the gaslighting, taking things away, telling you what they've done for you, the obligations. A lot of us get into where we are basically in debt bondage. And what they give you, they keep you so dependent on their resources. You don't need to work. I'll take care of you. You don't need to worry about a dress for that gala that I know you can't afford, but I'm going to take you to that gala and you're going to look so pretty. Think Pretty Woman. Think of our pop culture, how we are trained that you get what you want, especially as a woman, but men do it. All of us do it. Some of us are trained that the way we get ahead is by using our looks, because that's all we're worth. So the tactics are across the board. The process is pretty much the same. I love you. I need you. I want you. You're amazing. Here's all the ways you're not amazing, and people don't see you the way I see you. And here's how I can help you. Here's what I can do for you to make your life better. But also, you better do what I say. Better provide for what I want. It's that supply and demand. And you're in this constant negotiation with them. And it's hard to fall out of love once you're in love. It has nothing to do with romantic love, by the way. My first person, it wasn't about a romantic love. It was about somebody that I trusted, decades older than me, that is supposed to be an authority figure in my life and take care of me, not damage me and hide me from my parents and take me to places and slowly introduce sexuality. That's all part of that grooming process, figuring out what your crevices are and seeping into them. And they get into them.
Wow. There are some parts of that conversation that I hadn't even realized the depth of it. And so if you're someone listening to this and all of a sudden they're having like, wow, I didn't recognize it. Like if they're getting that feeling of like, hey, I have some red flags going off of some relationship I'm in or some relationship I've been in, what should someone do at that point if this is kind of hitting them?
I think if it's something that's in your past, it is appropriate and good to start your own memoir. The best thing I ever did for myself, even when I was still not feeling well, I was still drinking and alcoholic. It was COVID times, and before that, trying to write a book drinking. And when I quit drinking, quit using, and just wrote my story, not for anybody to see, not in a journal perspective, in a timeline way. First this happened. I say it's like Chunk on Goonies, and then they did this, and then they did that. I say you do that for yourself. You sit in the corner of your room, you take parts of your life, don't do it all at once. You carve out that time and you memoir for yourself. It doesn't have to end up in a store or on a bookshelf. It literally can be for you, and you can burn it one day, whatever you ritualize with it. Getting it out, I believe, is key. The other part of that is if you feel that this is any part of your story, yesterday or today, serve others. I can't tell you what going and talking with other survivors over the last few years has done for me in my life. That's what gives me strength. Nothing else on this planet gives me strength, but talking to others that their stories are so deep rooted and beyond the ones I could ever write. And I feel their stories in my soul and go, my gosh, what you have done to live today is extraordinary in of itself. So I tell everyone, if you're suffering, serve. It doesn't have to be the community that you're traumatized. It doesn't have to be how you identify. Don't think of serving as, well, somebody abused me, domestic violence, so I'm going to go be an advocate for domestic violence. I don't recommend that in the service piece. I recommend serving a population that hurts your heart in some way, pulls and tugs on you, whether it be animals, whether it be disabilities, whether it be another survivor group, complex PTSD, autism. Pick one, go spend time with them and get out of your story. If you can spend time out of your story while you're doing that, that's where you'll learn and grow, because you'll realize you are not the only one. If anything, you're a statistic. And if anything more, your story might be even better than what you thought, because there's somebody out there that has a story way beyond yours. And so I recommend serving. Of course, there's tons of therapies. I have them all in my book. Meditation, and I had medical interventions. One of them is called the SGB shot, and I talk on that. There's so many interventions and ways to survive. Now we need to learn how to prevent. And that's what you and I are doing right here, right now. And we do that when we go out and serve, because we can talk about other populations to others and advocate and say, do you know what autism is really like for someone? I work with individuals that have autism or are autistic. And this is my experience with them. You don't have to be autistic to do that, right? So serve. Give yourself, and you won't suffer as much. It's the isolation that in which we suffer.
Yeah, you bring up a good point with, that idea of isolation and um whatever you've been through. We get stuck in our stories. Sometimes we replay it again and again and again in our heads, and that causes that negative spiral, and that causes more of that isolation. So a huge part of healing is breaking out of that thought process, breaking out of that isolation, and being able to reconnect with others. And like you said, being able to serve them, having that spirit of generosity. There really truly is no better way to heal than to go out and say, I'm broken, I'm hurt, I've experienced something, and I still care for you. I'm going to serve you. I am going to provide and care and share for whatever it is. It could be as small as helping someone carry their groceries out to the car. It could be one of the things I did a lot in education was I made sure I said hi to every kid I saw in the hallway, because you never know. You may be the only person who says hi to them. So I've been going on walks lately, and anytime I come across someone, I make sure I say hi to them, because you never know what's going on with that person.
Ever, especially with children, the funniest thing that I observe about children is that they actually really want to say hi, but because of our training and how adults are in general, it's part of the child rooted stuff that's happening now, where they say our millennials and different generations don't know how to communicate. A lot of that is that adults didn't communicate with them to have their language develop from childhood up to adulthood. We communicate with them like adults. We don't say simple things and in passing like, hi. There's always conversation associated, and that overwhelms children. And we were walking the other day, and a little girl, we caught eyes, and I could tell we were at a park and walking. This is one of the other things I do. I go out into nature a lot to heal. I'm
Yes.
alone with animals a lot. They taught me more in life than almost anything ever has. So we were excited. There's manatees and all these things, and she's excited, and we caught eyes, and I could tell she wanted to say hi. It was just that moment. And I looked at her and I said, hi. And I waved my hand and she said it back. And it was so exciting. And it happened to me another day, a group of children, they want to engage, but adults don't know how to engage on children level, to just
Yeah.
say, hi, I like your bathing suit. I like your hair. It's that simple language that if we can talk to them simply, then we can simply talk about the sex education component. And here I go on the tangents, but that's how the talking to the children makes a difference from
Mm-hmm.
the ground up, the saying hello in passing, and then being able to have deeper conversations. Imagine a child not being able to say hi to an adult. How are they supposed to talk about somebody hurting them?
Yeah. It's
And that's where we
impossible.
live right now,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not safe to talk out and talk about it.
Well, and so much of our communication now is through phones, through social media, and um, last year at the school I was at, I spent more time dealing with what would have just been a basic conversation between people, but it escalated 10 times more than it needed to because of our phones and social media and everyone else jumping in, and like it we are not serving the next generation with these cell phones because they're not they're so disconnected from their bodies, from the earth, like you said, being out in nature. They're stuck on these
That's on the
phones.
parents, though, because there's a way to have both. I believe there's balance. I believe that we're out of balance. There's a way to have the tools that help our lives. And I'm not a tech person. I have an aversion to tech. My husband is a techie. So we have a fun household. And it is hard for me because I didn't grow up with technology to adopt new things. That's part of my challenges, adopting new things into my toolbox. And when you look at it as a tool and we can teach our young people and then also be the ones that break them away, how can you tell a child you spend, and I mean up to 18, you spend too much time on the phone when you yourself are right next to them, swiping and scrolling, not making eye contact, having a conversation while they're trying to tell you about their bad day or good day or friend that had something happen in their life. It starts with the adult. We're putting too much ownership on children's behavior
Mm-hmm.
when they are surrounded by adults behaving. We have to change. It is showing them, I don't use my phone that way. What makes me different? Discipline. Children don't come built with built-in discipline. That's their job, is to push us, to show us where our holes are. And we don't like to do that. We have an aversion to filling our own holes. So we focus on what's wrong with them instead of
Mm-hmm.
showing them that you shouldn't know. Children should not know how to use phones.
No.
That's not a built-in skill.
No.
We have to show them, which means you put your phone down and say, this is our time to engage. And I need you to do that as well. They will adopt that into their own lives. So you can't be a disconnected caretaker and then blame the child for being disconnected. It's the one soapbox I stand on is the children, because I
Yes.
believe we do put so much ownership. When I was precocious as a child, I was hit with paddles and rulers on my hands and threatened with belts being snapped in my face and books and corners in my hands because
Mm-hmm.
I was precocious. I said what I saw, what I observed. I told the truth, and I got in trouble for it. As a child, What kind of space or room does that give me into adulthood to ever be able to vocalize what I want, need, or feel? Why would I ever want to have a conversation with somebody on a phone or in person? It would stunt a person's social skills. And we're
Yeah.
telling 8-year-olds to have adult style social skills. You should know better. You should have known that that was, right? We use those words. I hear them in theme parks. I tour theme parks just to see, I do observation, just to
Uh-huh.
see what's going on in America with children and adults. If you really want to see how children behave and how adults parent, stay at a theme park for 10 hours.
Oh,
And
man.
you will see the truth about, and it's not exclusive to a country. It is not exclusive to a culture. It is not exclusive to a color, a creed, a religion. It is none of them. It is all of us. As adults, we've kind of lost our temper a little bit. We say just a little bit. And we don't have the patience for our young ones. We want them to grow up and grow up fast and get out of my house. And then when you fall, I'm going to tell you what's wrong with that. Well, I'm
Mhm.
the one. When my kids fall as adults, I run to them and go, I may be responsible for some of this. Let's have a conversation. How you're feeling right now, financially, or with a girlfriend or boyfriend, or whatever they're going through. The
Mhm.
very first thing I do, talk to my husband and say, is this something we have to take responsibility for? And we evaluate it.
Mhm.
And we go to our children and say, this might be something we need to work on. Rather than say, what are you doing? What do you mean you failed a class? What do you mean you let them abuse you and didn't tell me? What do you mean? Right? Because
Yeah.
we're in shock as adults, as parents or caretakers. It shocks us when our kids are hurting. And I don't think we have the skill set built in. For generations, this is an ongoing generational problem. It's not just one. So we can prevent that by doing what you and I are doing right now, and then going to our young people who will then have other children and then
Yes.
tell them. And in generations from now, 5, 6 generations from now, we will see improvement and maybe eradication. And people said we'll never get rid of certain things in society. And we do. And we
All the time.
can. We can. Does it mean it'll go away forever always? No. But we could save a lot of children and love on a lot of people, adults. Because children that turn into abusers, not just victims.
Oh, yeah. I had
Abusers
a
are a child's problem, not an
I
adult problem.
I had a student who I believe it was there was someone in his family who was an abuser. And then a few years later, that student turned into an abuser to his sister.
Yeah.
And so you're right. I mean, it is what we're teaching as the adults or what they see in social media, on TV. And you brought up a really big point when you were saying that we model for the kids, okay, I'm putting my phone down. This is time for us. We're going to look at each other, connect with eye contact, have those conversations. So much of what I've learned about grooming and trafficking can even be that kids don't feel like they can come to their parents and they automatically trust whoever gives them any form of interest over their parents.
Yes. And this is not just now. It's just every generation we attach it to whatever is the new development of the age. But this is from music, movies. We could go through eons of parent child history, and this is always a problem in some fashion. So it's not exclusive to our times, right? I want to say that because I don't want to blame anyone. I'm Gen X. I don't blame my whole generation for what's happening with our kids, but I do say this: we can change our grandkids, our great grandkids, and beyond. And so, with the generational thing, if our language changes with the kids, with each other, and we can start saying, this is what this looks like, it will be the children that are able to come to their parents, their caretaker, trusted people and go, somebody said something to me and it is off. It made me feel bad. In history, someone would say, oh, they're just hitting you because, right? We have the old thing, boys hit the girls because they like you. That's all different language. We say it.
Oh, yeah.
And no, I don't think that's what he was really saying, honey. No, I don't think that's what he was really doing. And then it turns into a hand on the knee. And she or he comes to you and says, oh, hey, Uncle Bob. Sorry, all the Bobs in the world. We'll take whoever, no Bob, Uncle somebody's. They put their hand on my knee and had their arm around my back. And I didn't like that. Like it made me feel, ugh. And a normal response of a parent of generations is, oh, he would never, honey, come on. That we've known, he's old. He doesn't even think about those things anymore. Those are the conversations being had in every home, every day, right now, today, in the world. It's not what you think. So we're teaching young people that their instincts aren't even what they think they are. So it's confusing from out the gate. If we
Right.
could focus on their voice. Oh, I hear you. What was the situation when you sat with your uncle? And I'm going to stay with this, as uncomfortable as it is to talk about the familial thing for people. We're going to do it anyway.
Mhm.
Your uncle, where were you? Oh, well, we were in the room by the computer, and he was showing me how to use this math program for my studies. And then he like put his arm. Oh, okay. He put his arm, and then, because they might get stuck telling you. And then he put his hand on my leg and he started moving it around. And then he like got close to my ear, and I just didn't like the way it felt. Well, you know what? You don't ever have to do that again. And we're going to make sure that your uncle's not in your room with you anymore. Would that make you feel safer? We're not getting rid of uncle. We're not calling the cops today. But your kid has told you something important, and the instinct is to run. We flight, we fly, we move, we fawn, we freeze. We get scared. And how many of us have abuse? So it triggers us too, and it makes us go, uh-oh, I haven't done my job. I haven't been a good parent. No, my kid is hurting. Well, no. It can't be what they think it is. And we pull back because we're afraid of the conversation. But if that one conversation separated Uncle so-and-so from your kid,
Yeah.
and they never got touched that way again, when your daughter's 18 and 19 and a boy in the frat house, and she goes to the party and she's living the best time of her life, and they're doing flaming Dr. Pepper shots and teaching her all the ways of the world, and somebody does that to her, she's not going to accept it. She's going to listen to her instincts, and she's going to go, I need to call my mom, or I need to call my dad or my auntie or my niece, not your niece. No, I need to call my auntie or my friend. And they're going to say, this made me feel bad. This guy did this, and she will prevent it. It's our language that starts from very little. And that's what I preach. That's why I'm telling the stories, so that we can have the conversation that talks about the details. Because the devil's in the details, isn't it?
It is. So what I hear you saying is that as parents, if we have our kids come to us really with anything, let's take the time to have that conversation with them so that they build up that stronger sense of intuition and self-confidence within themselves of their own feelings. Because you're right, our kids have their own boundaries. Even from a young age, they just don't know how to articulate it always.
I believe that we do. I believe that a little child, I was a behavioral therapist with autistic littles for several years. And I believe that we do. It's just that parents have low bandwidth. We are working a lot. I know. I know when I say the things I say, because I hear it in my own head, but I work a lot. But I'm trying to put food on the table, but I'm trying to pay the rent. I'm trying to pay my car payment. I'm trying to just get them to school on time. I'm trying to brush my hair every day. What do you mean every time their red flag goes up? Yep. I'm sorry, but we chose them. They did not choose us. They didn't choose to be born. We chose to go through with the process of having them. It is our jobs at that point that everything else goes by the wayside, and it's our job to get healthy through the process. If it triggers, my children triggered me. Especially adolescents and teens, I did not know how to communicate with them because that's when I was abused. I was raising children like an 11-year-old raises children. And then their emotional intelligence surpassed mine. And I went, uh-oh. When you're triggered, that's your job, not your kid's job to be less rebellious. I mean, we don't want them getting in trouble. I don't mean, but they're rebelling because they're just figuring out their path.
Yeah.
It's
They're
our
pushing
job to go,
boundaries.
why are you feeling the way you do? Well, I just want to be a writer. I understand. Let's talk about what the road to being a writer looks like. Not, writers don't make any money. Do you know how hard it is to get a bestseller? New York Times, that's never going to be you. Stay focused. You're a great football player, right?
Right.
We shape them because it's easy for us. Instead of, you want to be a writer? Then let's talk about the truth about being a writer. You're going to be broke a long time. You're going to have to do this a long time and build that, right? That's the conversation instead of going head to head. And they will go head to head, but we are not their friends. I know we like to say that. They're my friend. My daughter says it today, and I taught her I'm your best mom friend.
Yeah.
Because I cannot have certain conversations with you at the moment I think I should, because you're not ready. Peers have conversations with each other whether we're ready or not. That's the difference. My friends and I, when we have very sincere, hard conversations, it has to happen now. With children, we have to be more delicate. Therefore, I'm not your peer. Because in friendships, we can't be that delicate. We'll run each other over. So that's the message with the children component. If we can start now, we're the grandparents now in these age groups. I'm coming into the age of potentially being grandparent age, if they ever did it. But nieces and nephews will have children. It's our time, and we get to pave the way for them now, literally and figuratively.
Yeah, I've heard you mention about, the way that we were raised, or that, a lot of these things have come from intergenerational of the way we talk, the way that we treat our kids, because that's how we were treated. And it only takes one of us to decide that we're not going to talk like that. We're not going to treat our kids like that. And that's where we start that trickle effect. The waves will happen of, we are now changing the way that we raise our kids, and that changes the way that the kids speak to their kids, and so on and so forth. And we can choose to make that change to heal our families.
Definitely. And get rid of the pleasing component. We want to please each other all the time, including our children. My children aren't happy all the time. They're not happy with me all the time. I love that we have a loving relationship, but sometimes I say things, they're like, Mom. And I say, but it's the truth, honey. I know you don't want to hear what I'm saying right now, but this certain path has certain things you should know about. Here is the plan, the path. Do you want to walk through mud, or do you want to step on stepping stones? Your choice. Your choice. It has to be their choice ultimately. Or when they get older, it is your fault, because they will blame you. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's the prevention of, if we talk about it now and I just tell you the truth and you're pissed off, I'm not going to make you happy all the time, but I'm going to tell you I have a certain amount of wisdom, and I've been around the block a little bit. I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm telling you what to prepare for. And if we can have more of those preparation conversations, we can curb these numbers and we can get these numbers down. 1 in 4 trafficking victims is a child. And of those children, 80% of them, and now they're saying 80 to 90% is somebody that they know, trust, and love.
Yeah.
They never tell. And when they become an adult, they get involved in activities that they're not proud of, and they get re-abused and trafficked later in life. And that's my story.
Yeah. So before we continue today's episode, I want to take a moment to talk about a mission that has become incredibly important to me. Every child deserves to grow up feeling safe, protected, valued, and free. Unfortunately, children around the world are being exploited and trafficked every day. And I don't believe we can simply hear about it, feel terrible, and move on. We have a collective responsibility to do something, to act. That's why I'm raising funds to support the fight against child trafficking and child exploitation, and the organizations working to identify vulnerable children, rescue victims, and help survivors rebuild their lives. And you can do something. You can be a valuable part of this mission and this work as well. You don't have to have thousands of dollars, and you don't have to be an expert. You simply have the opportunity to decide that protecting children matters. Donate. Share the mission. Start a conversation. Pay attention. Use your voice. Because when enough ordinary people decide that protecting children is our responsibility, extraordinary change becomes possible. If you'd like to stand with me, visit community.timtebowfoundation.org/fundraiser 737-1026. Together, we can turn awareness into action, hope into impact, and create a world where children are protected. Protecting children is everyone's responsibility, and it starts with us. What aspects of your story would you like to share a little more in depth while we, still have some time?
Well, as a young person, I had mentioned that I was subjected to porn and things like that. It wasn't that somebody was taking me into a room. I'm going to stick with the grooming component and how this happens. I talk a lot about the details of the story, and the torrid details are written. You can go read them, right? As a young person, it was about exposure without education. And I was able to see pornography that was laid out. It was under counters, magazines, videos that played when they thought, I was sleeping in a living room. And then from there, behaviors, sexuality behaviors that oftentimes are little girls a lot. We dance, we play, we mimic, we do motion, and that is a lot of times applauded, and with young people. And that's the message that I want to talk about now as far as it pertains to my personal story. Because I didn't have a lot of boundaries built in around me and my family, just like most families of that time, they played together, they partied together, drank together, and the kids ran around like we were feral and ran around while everyone carried on being adults.
Right.
And didn't involve us very much. And I believe because of that, the culture of that, by the time I got to be 10 and 11 years old, my behaviors were more adult-like. I did act older than I was. I did behave in ways that maybe I shouldn't. I didn't know that at the time. But we had moved. I grew up in poverty and low resources, and we had moved to a town that I didn't know anybody, and I didn't have friends. I didn't have friends growing up. We moved a lot. And I was riding my bike around the neighborhood. I'm 11 years old. like a lot of kids who are 11 do when they get a break from sibling watch or studies or whatever. What do you get to do? You get to go ride your bike around the neighborhood, and
Yeah.
that's your fun time. And one of the neighborhood kids, I'd seen kids out and stuff, but not a lot of kids were out on the streets. And it was summertime, and he flagged me down, said, "Do you want to play? You want to hang out?" And he's an older kid. I had already received a lot of attention, ample attention from older men throughout my adolescence and primary years. I was abused when I was younger by a peer, and a father was around kind of situation. There's a lot of it. There's too many stories. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No,
But I'm going to stay on this one. I'm 11 years old and I'm riding my bike around, and he says, "You want to hang out?" And I thought this was, wow, man, an older kid. I'm new to town. I get to reinvent myself. And yes, 11-year-olds think these things. Read
yeah.
Judy Blume books, right? We have very big kid thoughts because we have access to very adult material young. Back then, it was a lot of magazines and videos, VHS videos and stores and Wiggly lines and Showtime, right?
Yep.
And so he says, "Come in," and not conversation. It wasn't, "I like you. Do you want to play Mario Kart?" There's no conversation between us. It's, let's, go into the room. I did. He said, take off my pants. And I had been told that before in peer play and in different ways that I was abused earlier. And I did. I didn't understand what we were doing, but it was kind of what I've done before. And I'm a people pleaser. And I did what he said. And then that is when he held me, and I describe it, the world flipped, I just flipped on my end. I had no idea what was happening, but he had put all of his weight into me, and that he raped me. And I didn't understand what was happening, though, because my brain was literally blowing up. I knew this wasn't what I wanted, needed. It all of it was crashing down around me, and somebody I didn't know. But I felt like I did this. I got myself here, and I need to get myself out, but I didn't know how to stop it. I froze, and he stopped, and there was blood everywhere, and I didn't understand that either. I was embarrassed because I did have my cycle already. I believed that that was me. And so and he was disgusted by me and told me to clean myself up and get out.
Yeah.
And he lived in the neighborhood, so I saw him all the time. And I just walked my bike home and washed off in a hose and sat outside. Back then in summer, you played outside all day. Nobody really knew where you were ever.
Yeah.
And I just washed off with the hose because it's summer and I'm hot. And I sat outside till I dried, and I just sat with it. It stayed with me. I didn't even know I was raped until I was a teenager. I didn't even know what sex really was until later. And that carried with me. I didn't know what to say. That's what no sex education does, because I didn't understand red flags. When I was younger, nobody put those boundaries around me that maybe I don't dance in a certain way to certain music. Just because adults can listen to music, I use the song, "If You Want My Body and You Think I'm Sexy." That was my anthem when I was 2 and 3 years old and up. It is a family joke. When my mom was alive, it was a family joke. Misty used to do this when she was little, in my panties. I used to sing all the words to "If You Want My Body and You Think I'm Sexy, let me know." Well, by the time you're 11, by the time I was 11, where are boundaries sexually? And that's the discussion. It has nothing to do with liberalism and conservatism and being conservative. It has nothing to do with religious beliefs or not. It has to do with telling children the truth. These are the things that can happen. This is what is out there, not for fear, prevention. If somebody talks to you, and I know we talk about the strangers, that's just the rape. That's not the trafficking. I still saw that person up until I was 18 and decided to move out of the town. And
Mm-hmm.
he wink and smile, he'd wink, and he would smile at me. I knew where he worked. Everything. That person was a part of my life, but not directly. That's what happens in little cities, in little towns, on the back streets, every day to day. Peers abusing peers, and peers not being able to tell anyone. And that's what's part of my story.
Yeah, that is an awful thing that you have been through. And thank you for being brave enough to share your story and all of your stories. I have a similar story. I was raped when I was 17, 18. I don't remember the age at this point. And it was years later that I had a conversation with my mom and found out that she had been raped as like a 14 or 15-year-old. You know, had
It's
I
an
had that,
epidemic.
yeah, but had I had that conversation with her when I was younger and just being aware of those things, it would have made a huge difference in the way that my childhood went.
Agreed. My issues and the things they're generational, you know, and those stories are theirs. Everybody in my life is mostly not alive anymore, and my abusers aren't, mostly. So I am fortunate that I get to step out and I don't have a lot of fear. I don't have the tethers anymore that so many do. But if another woman our age or older or younger hears what we're talking about, they might think twice about sharing their trauma, like you said. I'm so glad I didn't tell my children everything, but I did have certain dialogue with them because I was a trauma-informed and mandated reporter. I've worked with children most of my life in some way, volunteering or in education, or as a behavioral therapist. And I always felt like if we could just tell them the truth about us, maybe we could move the needle. If I could tell my kids before I thought about releasing the book, hey, some things happened to me and my alcoholism is a factor. It's a symptom of that. Here's the truth about my alcoholism. This is how it hunts me down every day. The ability to be able, the ability to tell my children that I suffer in these ways and I work on it every day allows me to work on it every day.
Yeah.
The accountability that comes from telling the truth is there. We could have stopped this many cycles ago in so many households if one mom told her daughter or son that somebody in their family hurt them, or that somebody said that we were going to go to a party and instead they took me to a hotel, or this boy who made me feel really important, who I thought was my friend, actually took me to a party and made me a party favor.
Yeah.
If we could tell those stories in whatever appropriate way we can, and there are appropriate ways to tell these stories, they don't have to be raw and graphic and hurt, the people in our lives. We can tell stories and articulate them in ways, author them in ways that we can share them with other generations that are coming up. Because I do understand it's very difficult to talk to a 10-year-old about sex, about trafficking, about rape. You don't just walk up to your 10-year-old and go, so mommy's going to talk to you now about how this happened. It doesn't happen that way. I know. It starts with smaller conversations. Just like the incidents, it's the same. Think of grooming are small incidents that happen over time. Shaping is the opposite. I mean, we shape in grooming. You understand what I'm saying, though. I'm trying to use like the opposite term. In shaping someone for positivity, we can use appropriate language, and there are many foundations and nonprofits out in our communities right now that I have worked with and that I work alongside that are in our middle schools right now, teaching students with parent permission in an appropriate, age-appropriate way, the what boundaries are, what risk factors are, what abusers do, what the system is. It's just that parents are so afraid of it that they're not letting it into the schools nationwide. They try to take information away to protect. And that's where our kids are getting in trouble. It's a thing.
Yeah, and it's so counterproductive, the idea of let's take away all this information of what's truly out there and ways that we can prevent this and handle this when we're in this information driven society and we've gotten more and more information out there, and if kids want to find it, they're going to find it, but it's probably not in the productive supportive way that could be addressed in through these organizations that you're talking about.
That's true. One of the things that I wish I did when my children were younger was be more detailed in how things happen rather than tell them what will happen. And that's where the fear comes in. It's like the birds and the bees chats that we've grown up having, where we try to sidestep things. That's how they do it in the middle schools a lot now, is sidestepping it. But if we can teach them that there's this kind of human out there and they're always going to be there, doesn't matter where you live or what society we live in. It is not that you take responsibility or ownership of what they're doing, but you can look for certain red flags and make a decision to avoid situations before you ever get further down the road.
Right.
So if you can tell a middle schooler, hey, if this, or this, give them 3 things at one time, small things. If anybody tries to show you a picture that has any content, you will never get in trouble. But I want you to know, with me, but I want you to know that you can get in trouble with the law. That is the truth, whether you're an adult or not. If somebody shares photos with you and we don't do something about that right away, here are the real world consequences for that action. Your child will listen. Those are real world things, rather than putting them down for the knowledge they should have had or should have. And if we can give them 3 steps, sometimes it depends on the child. You can do that once a week and have a little family sit down. You can do it where it's once a month, depending on, because sometimes with neurodiverse individuals, once a week might be too much to handle some of the other things, or maybe complex PTSD, whatever it is that your bandwidth isn't there, you're managing a lot. Then you set it out month by month and you give them little bits of information and you build up into the bigger happenings. If they just know that, wow, my parent is taking that, or my caretaker, my person at that time is taking the time and the interest to say, hey, I love you so much that I want you to know that there's a way for you to get ahead of this before you get in trouble. If somebody shows you a picture, you won't get in trouble. Come show me.
Yeah.
You won't embarrass me. I don't want you to be embarrassed about sexuality. I want you to ask me questions. As a caretaker, parent, otherwise, you should be the first point of contact. And ironically, we're the last point of contact most of the time.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid of us being embarrassed. So if at 8, 9, 10 years old, we're teaching them that we're not embarrassed about it, we're not teaching them how to have sex. We're not giving them the tools to go do it. We're teaching them that here are ways that you can protect your body. And it's by being aware of your own system. Your nervous system's going to react in these ways. If somebody puts their hand on you and it makes your skin crawl, I want to know. If somebody says, you should read this, and it's a funny joke and you don't get the joke, Come tell me the joke. I'll let you know what words you don't understand. I'll even tell you the punchline and tell you why you should never tell it again, right?
Yeah.
Be open about hearing the information and not embarrass yourself. And if you are not educated in today's sex education world, I suggest you get a crash course. My kids are much older. They're in their 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And it was overwhelming for me then. I can't even imagine for a parent today how overwhelming. I do imagine it is overwhelming for you. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
because it's pay now or pay later. That's the truth. Dig in now, or you're going to have adults that are losing their minds, not working real jobs, floundering, going to jail. I went to jail, had a DUI, not understanding their own life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pay now or pay later as a parent. And there are certain things we can talk about openly young that are
Yeah.
just little things. Has anybody said anything to you that made you feel uncomfortable lately or at school today? They're off. They don't feel good. What's wrong? What's wrong with you? You never talk to me. That's the normal dialogue in the car. Put your phone down. Talk to me. Come on. Rather than digging into their life. Who'd you talk to today? Nobody. I'm sorry. Or, well, I talked to so and so, and she told me that they are never going to let me be on the cheerleading team. I'm sorry. But if you come at them, you never put your phone down, you don't pay attention to me, you're not listening to me. It's all about you and
Yeah.
what you need from your child. You get that from your friends. You do not get that from your child. They give you attention. They put your birthday parties on. They take you out to dinner.
Yes.
Your kids are your kids your whole life until they're 80 years old. Your kids are your kids. And that separation is part of that factor as well. It's what I preach. If we can do that with our kids, let them be kids always, I believe we can change it, change the exploitation. And like you said, it takes one conversation. It might have changed your life. And it's not your mom's fault,
Mm-hmm.
right? We don't
Yeah.
blame them. And I don't blame anybody at this moment in my life. And if children know that they won't get in trouble and their parent won't get in trouble, the person, take all the trouble out of it,
Mm-hmm.
they'll come to us more. It's the trouble factor.
Yeah. Yeah. One of our daughters, she would cause herself panic attacks because she was so worried she would get in trouble because of the abuse she had dealt with earlier on in her life. And just even seeing her as an adult now, still getting so stuck in her head over the trouble aspect when it's, we can be so open and honest now as adults, but because that happened so intensely as a child, it takes so much more to pull the stuff out of her to be there to support her. When you're right, if we can do that as an earlier age as parents, we set up that stronger foundation for our kids to be stronger humans when they're
They're not
adults.
afraid of us. When they're afraid of us, that means they're afraid to tell us everything.
Yeah.
They're not going to tell us all the things. And what I say, and for your daughter, when we struggle with this amount of trauma, when there's a complex series of timeline of trauma and abuse, that does not ever go away.
Mm-hmm.
I have been asked and told, I've been asked why can't you just get over it? And I have been told I should just get over it by individuals in my life and a therapist, that it's time. And I asked that therapist, have you been raped? And she said, no. I said, okay. Have you been sexually abused in this way by partners? No. Okay. Have you been punched in the face by somebody you love? No. Okay. tell me what I need to move on from. Because until you walk in my shoes, and that's a song by Depeche Mode, Walking in My Shoes, it's in my book. My book is laced with soundtrack. So until you actually walk in someone's shoes, that's why I don't talk on anyone else's behalf. I don't talk on pornography and sex work and choices, because I'm not in that life today. I can only study it and give research and samples. I can't judge anybody for their choices, just like you can't for me. And until you really walk in someone's shoes, to tell someone to move on, move beyond it, oh my goodness, no thank you. Move beyond my life at that point, because that's not a good person to have in your life. Trauma victims, complex PTS victims, sufferers, it never goes away.
Yeah.
We have moments. There are times I forget who I am. And a smell, there's certain smells specifically for me. I will smell a couple smells together, and they're very common. It's an alcohol and a covering alcohol smell, like a mint and thing, when adults try to mask alcohol. And those two things in public today remind me of an abuser. So it never goes away, because you never know when it's going to hit you in the face. Therefore, you're always on guard for when it hits you in the face, at work, at play, when you're meditating, when you're drunk, right? It doesn't matter. So it's something that I teach you: live with it forever. Don't survive it forever. Live with it now. Understand where it came from. Get to the root of it, all of it. That's the memoir piece, right? Excavate all of it. Get to the roots of the damage. Then you can start rebuilding. And not on what you were, not on the damage, not on the damaged foundation. You now have a brand new foundation, because you understand it with clarity. You see it for what it is. No embarrassment, no shame. You let who needs to own it, own it. You own your part of it. And it isn't moving forward. It's rebuilding on a new foundation. That's always going to be there. They're bones in the ground. They're going to come up sometimes. When the flood comes in, they're going to surface. It's just the way it happens. It's human. And we don't accept that in society so much. There's an expectation, I believe, of survivorship that requires survivors to just go on and live life and be okay. Why can't you work a normal job? Maybe because when somebody has a mint in their mouth, I am now being raped again. I don't know. You tell me why I can't work a normal job.
I had so I went through a traumatic, complete breakdown during a horrific custody battle. And I couldn't work. I was a teacher at the time. I went back to work as a teacher. And there was this kid in the classroom that I don't know exactly how it ended up happening, but just the way that this kid came up to my desk, and like the rhythmic slapping of some toy or something in his hand, like aggressively towards me, it put me right back in that moment of when I was raped as a kid. And it happens. And so sometimes you're right, those things just throw us right back, and there's nothing I could have done to prepare myself or prevent that from happening.
No, but you have to go home. You have to go on with your day, and then you get in your car, and it stays, right? The flashbacks, now that's with you for the day. That doesn't go away. You negotiate it. I negotiate with it at that point. Okay, this isn't really happening. You go through your toolbox. I understand. I go through the therapies, and I tap, and I do all the things, but it's still in there, and I've got to go home, cook dinner, pretend I'm happy, smile at my husband, tell my children that I love them and that I'm really happy to be there with them that day. And meanwhile, internally, my inner child is screaming at me, going, what about me? You're not talking to me. That's what triggers are. You're not talking to me. Listen. And if survivors are taught, and I now do this, that you carve out time for your inner children, for your victims inside, because depending on how much you got a lot of ages, markers in your life, deal with them. Carve out the time to spend with them. When I stopped pushing away the demons, as I called them, my monsters, and I started talking to them individually and going, I understand you hurt me. I understand why you hurt me. I understand the root of abusers. I understand the root of trafficking. However, this is the time for my little girl. And she gets Twizzlers and she gets popcorn and she gets to sit in the corner of the room with her blankie, and we're going to talk about what bothers her right now. And right now, what bothers her is that this thing happened today. And it smelled like this, and I felt like that. And I wanted to get out of there. And it doesn't matter if you were 50. Because your inner child, my 11-year-old, is the one that's sitting there going, remember when that happened?
Yeah.
Because I do that, I'm able to go to work the next day. Because I listen to them and I don't push them away, which is what we do with alcohol, drugs, sex, healing, whatever your addiction is, whatever you adopt, everybody has vices. We use them to silence the children. And guess why we were abused? Because we were silenced in some way, shape, or form. We couldn't tell someone and stop the cycle. So as long as we keep silencing those emotions in us, I cry all the time. I can't help it. It wells up in me. And there are people around me that go, oh, no, I don't. And they're afraid, like I'm delicate and fragile. I'm like, no, I'm a warrior, but I cry. Joan of Arc cried. Like, let's stop being so delicate, everyone, and understand that I've got stuff and I'm allowed to cry and then I'll be fine. But if you keep telling me to be quiet or to move past my emotion and not give me the carved out time, then I will forever have an inner child, whatever your psyche, whatever you want to label it in psychology, how we use words, whatever's crying inside of you, listen. There's a reason they're crying, and it does get better. I will say that since I started speaking more and even this podcast journey over the past 6 weeks, I don't have the cries. I feel sorry for what happened. I have moments where I go, I'm so sorry. I have to apologize to them because I have so many ages that I was abused. They pop up and I have to go, I'm sorry that happened to you. But right now we have stuff we have to do. And I know you're hurting, but when we get done, we're going to go by Chick-fil-A and we're going to get a cookie. I do that. I don't go to the bar. I don't go to the bar. That's a successful day. And I can't do that every day. We can't eat a 6-pack of cookies every day and be healthy, right? But when it builds up and that my little girl starts screaming, I go, listen, I know we can't do that now, but I'm going to take your hand. I'm going to help you through the next 3 hours. Because sometimes it's when I am in real serious stuff. I'm working, I'm speaking, I'm sharing my stories. I've got to stay collected. I can't let somebody else's energy sway me.
Yeah.
And I have to hold her hand that entire 3 hours and go, I hear you. And when we are done, I will talk with you. And she trusts that now. 5 years ago, I didn't trust that in myself because every time I said, don't worry, we'll handle this. We'll go to therapy. Don't worry, we'll handle this. I'll journal. Don't worry, we'll handle this. I'll take the walk on the beach instead of go to bottomless mimosas. Don't worry. I would keep pushing it away. And that was the suffering. As soon as I started listening, because nobody listened when I was a kid, or I didn't say it. I didn't feel comfortable saying it. I was silent. That's the training in our adulthood.
Yeah.
Don't silence yourself. If your partner is if you're upset because it's not working, we have to talk about it, not pretend it's not happening. And then people are cheating on each other. How
Yeah.
did you get there? Because I didn't feel safe telling you the first time you didn't show up for me. And then I didn't feel safe telling you the second time you said something that my abusers said over and over again. And then I didn't tell you that I actually don't like that food, but I ate it anyway. And here we are 7 years later, and we're on the brink of divorce because you just don't listen to me,
Yeah. And
right?
it's really what's underneath all of that. Absolutely.
How do we get there? And we're not taught how to have those really hard conversations initially, and they snowball. And so it's in all the relationships, children, partners, it's all of us. If we can take responsibility for our role and not worry about making everyone else do it, we
Yeah.
can create a wave of change and
Absolutely.
change our conversation together.
Absolutely. Well, Misty, we're coming close to time. So I want to
Yeah.
make sure, do you want to talk about your book a little bit? How do people get a hold of you? How do they find you? How do they book you for a talk?
Thank you so much again, too. I want to say thank you because it is hard as podcasters to also constantly be listening to stories and coaches and therapists and all the people that are in this sector trying to give us voices and build these platforms of knowledge and education. Thank you for having me and taking the time.
You're very
The book
welcome.
is a
It's an
tool.
honor.
Thank you.
Yes.
The book is a tool. I knew that I would have to have something tangible because it is difficult telling as many stories as I have over and over and over and over and over again. And in timeline form. So my book is actually not a typical memoir where it goes, when I was 5, this happened, and then when I was 8, this happened. My book is designed to see my life through different lenses. So the title is Drinking Beauty and the 7 Narcissists, a Musical Journey. I know it's a lot of words, but every chapter is a word in the book. So chapter 1 is drinking. And it is my life through the lens of alcohol and addiction and how alcohol took hold of my life without blame. None of my chapters go into any blaming of anything. It really is exactly how things happen through my lens. And then chapter 2 is beauty, and it talks about how beauty is taken. Not I'm beautiful. A lot of people think drinking beauty is me. It isn't. It is more of an analogy of what we all are. When we're in our addiction, we're our most beautiful.
Yeah.
It's what it teaches us. So it's how addiction, abuse, a diagnosis, an accident digs into us and takes away our beauty, and so on. Every chapter has a lens: healing, grief. I've lost both of my parents, so you learn about that. I talk about my marriage in its entirety, from conception to now, from our conception of our friendship to now, and how we navigated, not we, my lens, how I navigated that. Parenthood, a chapter solely on parenting and children, and a chapter is on narcissists and how we've come to label society in a very clinical black and white way rather than tackle the tactics and the things that we use to get what we want, and how narcissism is created and how we label it. So with that said, my book is a myriad of stuff, a lot of stories, but also there's love and there's healing and the other side of my life. It isn't just about the trauma. And I want survivors, people who don't understand survivors, people who have never met a survivor. This is for you. It is a blueprint for how you can help someone, how you can listen to someone, and how we can prevent this all together. All the different things that I've been through. And then at the end of it, what is the purpose of this journey? Why? Why would I have to go through this? Why would anybody go through what they have, what they're given. The cards were dealt, so to speak. Why did I have to go through this overall? And it isn't to say that someone is chosen, because I used to believe that I was forsaken. I was chosen to suffer. I did very deeply believed I was chosen to suffer this world.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of it, the message that I want people to see at the end of the journey is that it isn't suffering. We have to find our purpose to serve. And so it helps us get to the end of that journey and what's next for my chapter. You can get it by my name. My name is Misti Spencer, Misti with an I, Misti Spencer. And I have my own website, mistispencer.com. And you can also get it in all formats on Amazon. It helps survivors. It is the way that I intend to move through the world from now on. So you help all survivors get their messages out there. If you're not a reader, don't worry. Buy it and give it to a 21-year-old in college. Buy it and give it to your niece, your granddaughter, your grandson. It's not just girls. Or read it just so that you have more dialogue yourself. And I want to know what you think about it. How did it touch your life? So I want to hear from survivors. You don't have to read my book. I'll hear your story anyway. I want to hear about others, and build in your stories. If you can't tell it, I'll build it in. I'll tell your story on a podcast and media in whatever way, because I believe that your stories matter too. So when you read, if you choose, know that there's way more purpose than just buying my book. We need to push this message much further. Thank you.
Yes, we do. And along with your book, it comes with an added experience. Is that correct?
It does. It does. Every chapter has a soundtrack, and all of the songs are part of my life. In all the decades of my life, from childhood up to now, there's songs that are part of my events, memories. It's how I excavated a lot of my life and memories, because there were so many songs attached. Plus, my autism kicked in. I cataloged thousands and thousands of songs. And it was hard to actually pick which ones make it into this book, because I'm writing different books for different subjects and lenses with all new music. But you read a passage, and in some way it's important, and then you can choose. You can go and look up the song and listen to it, or you can choose to just read the book straight through and go back and listen to the music. The music's important because it does allow you to see my emotion differently. I do have rage. I do have anger about what happened. I do have sorrow, but I also have moments of clarity and becoming and awakening. And you may discover music yourself in looking at my catalog and the soundtracks of my life. You may yourself find music that helps you get through something in your life. So as much as it is about my writing, the songs in it are so important because they give their own message, and those artists have their own pain, and it's a way for them to circumvent. Yeah.
I love it. Well, Misti, I end my interviews with the same question, because it truly gets to the heart of the work that we're doing. So if you could change one thing for the next generation that would have the greatest positive impact, what would it be?
I believe giving our children a voice is going to be the one thing that changes us forever. Silencing children is the issue. It's the core issue. Children that have voices don't get abused. We see that in statistics. It is the children that don't know how, don't have the tools, or are forcibly silenced that are suffering as adults even. And so the one thing I would want to change in our society is that we start talking to our children like children, and listen to their voices instead of our own, and trying to put our voice into their head.
I love that, Misty. It's so beautiful. And I want to thank you again. Thank you for the bravery, for being bold, for persevering through everything you've been through, and for being here, sharing your voice, sharing the voice of your inner child with the world to be the light for others. So thank you so much for coming onto the podcast today.
And thank you. Thank you to your audience, and thank you for what you do. It's amazing.
All
Bless
right.
you.
And
Thank you.
thank you. And thank you for tuning into the Jennifer Awesome podcast. I also want to take a quick moment and say that if you have a story that you'd like to share, I have this platform, as Misty said. I would love to be the vehicle for you to share your voice, share your story, because we are a story-driven society. As humans, we originally experienced things through stories. So come share your story and get your voice out there in the world, because you never know who needs to hear your story, because it could become their survival roadmap for their lives. Have a good day. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your story, your wisdom, and a little piece of your heart with us today. To everyone listening, I hope something in this conversation reminded you that your story matters, your voice matters, and you have more power than you may realize to create change in your own life and in the lives of the people around you. If this episode spoke to you, please take a moment to subscribe to the Jennifer Awesome podcast. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear it, and leave a review. Those simple actions help these conversations reach more people. And remember, you don't have to have everything figured out. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be willing to keep learning, keep growing, keep connecting, and keep choosing possibility. Be brave enough to question what isn't working. Be courageous enough to imagine something better. And be willing to become part of creating it. Until next time, I'm Jenni Awesome. Go out there, be awesome, love boldly, and create the ripple that changes the world.